Finished that already? You smart little girl. Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Mesa in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling Magic Monday. Yes, it is all about the magic today and what we can do. Zephyr currently has her puzzle down there on the floor where she has to slide the round. She has treats inside each of the round things. She has treats underneath the little things that swivel out, and she has to slide the round thing back, swivel open the little thing to get the treat out of there, then move the round thing back over the hole that the leaf was, that the little swivel thing was covering, and then move that back to get the treat out. And it looks like she's almost done. And I put it down on the floor like 2 minutes ago. But it's one that I've been having her do at least once a week. And then later this week, I'll pull out her other one, which involves sliding boxes and moving bones and opening boxes to get treats out. They're two puzzles that I've had for her for a while, and it takes her 5 minutes each time. The first time she had them down, it took her 5 minutes to work out each one. 5 minutes on each one. So yeah. So how was your Magic Monday? Jeepers. Today for me, my Magic Monday is all about having that beautiful spark of the day and everything else. And it's also Winnie the Pooh Day today too. So all of those favorite Winnie the Pooh quotes that you like. I think I posted them. Did I post them or did I not post them? I can't remember if I posted them or not. So if they're not on my wall, I will check that out after this. If they're not there, I will go put them there, because there's some great Winnie the Pooh quotes on there, and I just love Winnie the Pooh. They're just such great stories, and there's such great things to learn. And today was a contemplation type day. It was going back over the notes from the weekend from Networking Riches and working out what do I need to take action on now, what can I take action on later. Sorry, I got a itchy eyebrow. That's weird. So what things do I need to take action on this week? What things can I put in the planner to do next week? That sort of thing. It's planning out that, doing those time blocks and planning out that time to get stuff done. I know I've got phone calls coming up this week, or Zoom calls coming up this week with some people that I met at Networking Riches over the weekend. And she must have finished it, because now she's looking out the window whining. Thought it would keep her occupied while we were on the call. Oh, darn it. I have to find something else for her to do. Because during Networking Riches, we did breakouts. So we got to meet in smaller groups of anywhere from 3 to 5 people per room. And so we got to know them, got to know a little bit about them, and take notes, names and numbers of people we wanted to connect with over the week, send them text, send them video messages and all that sort of stuff to connect with them. And so that's been happening this week as my calendar's slowly filling up, which is kind of nice. I like that. And I have in my, one thing I do, and I use Time Trade. So I go in there and I've got different links for different events, and you can create as many events as you want to, but I always block out the same time each week, unless, like when I was booking group cruises, I would go in and I would fill in 15-minute time slot. Well, they were booking a 15-minute time slot. I had 20 minutes in the calendar for the appointment, so I had 5 minutes between each appointment. And basically it was deposit. You want to be deposited, put this here, go pick a time. I will call at that time to get your payment information, and we make the payment and answer any questions that you have. And doing that made things so much easier, because as soon as they filled in the form, they got this message, click this link to set up the best day and time for us to call you. And they had an option of several 15-minute time slots that they could go and fill in. And if they didn't do that, then they got an email reminding them that they needed to go do that, because I was not going to be chasing people on phones. Because one of the things when you're dealing with group bookings is constantly having to, you're sitting there and you're just calling people and leaving voicemail after voicemail after voicemail for people saying, hey, we need to get your credit card information so we can pay your deposit for the cruise. And so this way, we were able to, as soon as they had booked, they then got the next screen which says, click this link so we can set up a time for your payment and for any questions that you have. So we had that ability to do that, and that worked so much better. There was maybe 1 or 2 people we had to chase, but overall, when you're talking 130 people on a cruise ship, it was a lot easier to handle things that way than sitting down making phone call after phone call and getting voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, and not getting calls returned and hoping that you would catch them in at a good time and all of that. So that worked so much better and made the process a whole lot smoother. And so with the exception of those little 15-minute time slots, I basically block out the same days and times during the week for people to go in based on what they're coming in as, and they get a description for what their appointment's going to be about. It could be, hey, it was great to meet you at Networking Riches over the weekend. Please click the link below to go and select the best day and time for us to have a talk. And you have like a 45 minutes to an hour slot in there for them. So it just makes that process a whole lot smoother rather than going backwards and forwards. Oh, I can do Tuesday at 10 a.m. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. Well, I can do Wednesday at 4. No, that doesn't work for me. I've got Thursday at 2 available. Nope, that doesn't work. Instead of all this backwards and forwards thing, it's so much easier to give people a link and say, here, please go and pick the best day and time that I have available that works best for you. Because that saves a lot of time going backwards and forwards, a lot of missed calls, and then they get an email at the end confirming everything, giving them the link to get onto Zoom and all of that sort of stuff. Much smoother process. And so I have in my calendar, I have grayed out areas in there that are free and available, but it lets me know that those are the times on those days of the week that I have time set aside for phone calls. So if I have something that comes in that's going to be at a regular time every day, it's going to be at the same time every day for the next few weeks or whatever it is, if I have a set thing coming in, then I know that then I can look at it and say, oh, I need to go change my appointments so that I can get some more available time. So I can then go into my time tray and move those time blocks around so that it now accommodates the fact that I'm at a weekly appointment at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, and I don't have people trying to make reservation, trying to get in and say, well, you don't have 3 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, because it's not an option anymore. So being able to take some of that stuff out and not having stuff go over fixed times helps as well. And because it's Martin Luther King Day, King Jr.'s birthday today, I did what I did every Martin Luther King birthday observation, is go in and listen to the I Have a Dream speech. I listen to the whole thing from when he's introduced to when he steps off away from the microphones. And it always cracks me. There's one piece in there that always cracks me up, is that, and it's just before or just after he starts the I Have a Dream. Excuse me. That's something caught in my throat. Oh, feels like a bit of peanut. I had some peanuts, not peanuts, I had a nut mix earlier. But none of them had the skins on it, so that's interesting because it kind of felt like skin there. Anyway, it's either just before or just after he launches into the I Have a Dream portion of his speech, where you see this hand come up and it bends all the microphones down so you can actually see his face. I'm like, the guy's been going already for like about 9 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is, and all of a sudden they decide, oh, the microphones are a little too high, so this hand just comes in and just adjusts all the microphones in front of him. That bit always cracks me up. But the message in there, no matter, and I don't know how long I've been doing this, but the message that he has in there is still valid today as it was in 1963. It is an incredible message. And there's still a lot of struggles and battles going on between the races and everything else. I'm not going to get political or anything. It's just that on Martin Luther King's birthday observation, I go and I watch that I Have a Dream because I find it a very inspiring speech. And I just love that speech. I mean, because I learn things each time I go in there, and it's just a nice refresher to have once a year to go, at least once a year to go in and listen to that speech. And there's a lot of motivation speeches out there. Like the one I have down to listen to tomorrow is because it's to do with Tune Up Tuesday tomorrow, and I'm giving you guys a heads up, is the commencement speech that Admiral McRaven gave to the University of Texas in Austin back in, it's the Make a Bed speech, why you make your bed every day. There's 10 things. Hey, excuse me. You're being very rude right now. She's eating all the treats and she wants more. But it's the Make a Bed speech is basically 10 principles that he learned as a Navy SEAL, going through Navy SEAL basic training. So, and it's a great speech, and I'm going to listen to that tomorrow before I do my live tomorrow morning, because it's got some great stuff in there that we can use for tune-ups. But if you've never listened to the full I Have a Dream speech, please go listen to it, because it's a very inspiring speech, and to think that a lot of challenges that they had in 1963 are actually still around today. There's a lot of stuff that happened back there in 63 that Martin Luther King's talking about that are still valid today. And it's like, man, why do humans treat each other this way just based on the color of their skin? I honestly don't get that. People are people. Doesn't matter your race, creed, religious beliefs, sexual orientation, whatever it is. People are people. Um, and so I just don't understand why people are mean to each other. It's just like I don't understand why people can harm animals and stuff. Every time I look at Zeffie, I go to put the waistband on the leash that I have for her because I have one that goes around the waist. And every time I open that belt to put it around my waist, she takes off. She backs up. And obviously, at some point during the first 5 months of her life, she was beaten with a belt. And I'm so like, I don't know. I just don't get it. I don't get how people can treat people the way they treat them based on the color of their skin or their religion or anything like that. I just don't understand. And I guess because I was fortunately brought up in a home where I was just taught to accept people for who they are. Do I judge people? Yes, I do fall into that trap of judging people when I know I shouldn't. I fall into that trap very well, and maybe I'm a little naive in some things when it comes to racism and all of that sort of stuff. I get that. I understand that. I'm always willing to learn. So if anybody wants to sit down and have a conversation with me about it, I'm happy to do that. I think it's important to understand other cultures, which is why I love travel so much and love being the traveler rather than the tourist. And the difference between a traveler and a tourist goes to see the things that are there. A traveler goes to experience the culture, the life, the country, rather than just seeing that, just going in and seeing, like going to Paris and just seeing the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre. The traveller will go in there. Yes, they may go see the tourist attractions while they're there, but they're more concerned about getting off the beaten path, getting into those back streets of Paris and getting that experience of what it's like to be there as a local. They want to blend in. They don't want to stick out. So they're the ones that want to get in there and understand the culture. And that's why I love travel so much, because it helps me appreciate other people's cultures and the culture that I was raised in. And just trying not to look like a tourist. I hate sticking out in crowds. I really do. So I like to blend in with everybody else. And if that means having, when we're in the Czech Republic, we would ask the waiter and the waitresses would say, how do we say thank you in Czech? And they would tell us. I honestly cannot remember. It was back in 2011. I've never had to use it again. I could very easily ask my daughter-in-law because her father's Czech, and she'd be able to tell me. And but it was just having those courtesies to be able to use a hello, a good morning, a good afternoon, or a thank you in their language, which shows that you're making an attempt to learn and understand them a little bit better. When we were in, and then we're in Germany, we asked the same questions there, and there was one time one woman spoke German to me, and I just gave her a blank look, and she said, "Would you like English?" I said, "Yes, please." I said, "I'm sorry," and then I asked her, and there were people in the store. I said, "How do I say thank you?" And she told me, and I was just like, and so I repeated it back to her and said, thank you for, and German said thank you for her teaching me to say thank you. And when we were in Hungary, we were down in the market, the Christmas market at night, which is when all the locals come out. Best time to go to the Christmas markets is at night when all the tourists have gone and all the locals come in. Completely different atmosphere. There are more stores open during that time than there are during the day when the tourists are there. And it's like a very big community party going on in there. And they have these great big long bench tables with the bench seats on them. And, these things were like about 20 feet long, and they were just packed of people sitting on either side. All this great conversation going on. People would pull out musical instruments and just that have impromptu jams and music sessions going and sing songs going on and everything. It was such a party atmosphere down there in the middle of winter, outdoors. It was fantastic. And I did have one problem with the language because I didn't know the language. I only got one stall owner that did not speak English. And I was trying to find out if this fish sandwich had onions in it. And so this lady came up to me and she says, "Excuse me," she said, "I speak the local language. Is there something I can assist you with?" I said, "Yes, please." I said, "Thank you very much." And so I told her what I needed. And so they went backwards and forwards, and she came back and says, "Oh, they'll take the onions out." I said, "Thank you very much." I said, "How do I say thank you in Hungarian?" And she told me. So I was able to turn to the lady and thank her in her own language. So it's just taking that time to appreciate the cultures and stuff as you learn about them. And that's one thing I love about travel is that, um, you know, what was it? Where were we? Oh, that's when we were in Budapest. And so when we were in Budapest, our hotel room overlooked, you could see the road going down where the tram cars had their Home Depot, had their home base. And they would come out. So we had this, right below us, we had the bus station, the tram station, the train station. We had the Budapest 72-hour car, which gave us unlimited travel on all those modalities of transportation. And then right across the road from us was a McDonald's. I said to Brad, I said, we are not stepping foot in that McDonald's. I said, we're eating local, which is why we love going down to the markets in the evening, down to the Christmas market every evening. We'll catch the train down there. And then we still had like a block or two to walk to get into the market. And we would have the local food that was there. It was fantastic to get those flavors. And just, even though we couldn't speak the language that they were all speaking, just to sit back and just for Brad and I to sit there and enjoy our meal and hear what was going on around us. And it just felt very special to be able to experience something that a tourist will never get to see, because they don't have that capacity to go and appreciate. All they want to know is where's a McDonald's, where's a Starbucks. In most cases, not all cases, but you do get those tourists that want to be catered for as though they are in America or in their homeland. Or basically, I notice this most with and yes, I am pigeonholing Americans because I notice this the most with Americans when they go traveling overseas. They're like, well, I want my McDonald's, I want my Starbucks, I want my Burger King, whatever it is. They want to be treated like they're back in America, and they don't want to observe the culture that's going on around them and experience the culture. There are a lot of Americans that do travel like that. And fortunately for me, most of my clients in travel have all been travelers, not tourists. And so it's been good to be able to give them those off the beaten path experiences that tourists wouldn't have, where they could go and experience the cultures. They could go do things that tourists wouldn't even know about because they're not interested in it. Or because they're on a tour bus that only goes from here to here to here to here. And yes, they may give them experiences that other tour companies don't give them, but they don't get the true, authentic experience of the place they're in, because they're still on that main road doing the main tourist attractions and things. And yes, they can come up with some unique experiences, but you know, every tour bus goes to that place. You know, every tour bus in their company goes to that place, or they may, yeah. So it's getting off the beaten path. That's one of those things, getting off the beaten path, learning and appreciating other cultures. So, I have no, oh, and then another contemplation for today was, I was having a conversation with somebody today, and we got talking. I don't know how this comes up. I brought it up in one conversation, but I haven't brought it up in other ones. But somehow we end up talking about education. And so from it came this question, and the question is, what subjects should be taught in school but aren't? And over on my Facebook wall, I've got a very active conversation going on over there where people are turning around. And a lot of the times it's like things like home economics, teaching them to cook, teaching them to sew a button on, teaching them the basics of car mechanics, just the basics, you know, how do you change your car oil? How do you check the fluids in your car? How do you check your tire pressure? How do you change your oil and your oil filter? Just very basic road maintenance stuff. Things like sewing. How do I sew a button on? How do I repair a rip in a shirt? How do I darn a sock that's got a hole in it, whereas there's a good wear in the rest of the sock? So just teaching basics like that. And one of the comments I mentioned that we also used to do, didn't matter what sex, didn't matter if you're male or female, didn't matter. Everybody in the class took home ec for 6 months of the year. When I was in middle school, first 6 months of the year, you're doing home economics, which was a combination of cooking and sewing, learning the basics. Then the second half of the year, you were doing woodworking. You were in the woodwork shop, and we were learning to use the tools. And then at the same time, there would be another class that would be on at the same time as us. And then the following year, it was again 6 months of home economics, 6 months of woodwork. Then when we got over to the high school, this is where they did separate us by sex, unless some of the guys wanted to. Though we very rarely had guys in the classes, but we did have one or two. but for the girls, for the first year of high school, we were required to do home economics for 6 months of the year. No, home economics for the year as well as clothing. In other words, all the sewing stuff. And in our home economics class, we learned meal preparation, creating shopping lists, or meal planning, meal preparation, making shopping lists, budgeting, laundry, how to set a table, um, food prep, how to store food, food safety stuff. Um, so it's very interesting when one of the comments I put there when I was in my food prep 101 for my associate's degree. Most of the stuff we learned in that class, I learned when I was 11, because it's stuff that they taught us in schools, and except for the oil and fat taste testing, that's going to be one of the grossest classes segments of a class I've had to take. So in food prep 101, we go in one day, and our module was on fats and oils, and they had these different flavored oils and fats, different types of fats. They had a pile of saltine crackers, huge amounts of water there for you. And you had to go around and taste all the different oils and all the different fats, write down your observations on them. I kid you not, it was the grossest class I have ever had to take of tasting oils and fats. And it was just one after the other after the other. But we had to drink the water and eat a saltine cracker between each one to get rid of the flavor of the previous oil or fat off our tongues. Some people did end up throwing up during that class because and you weren't tasting a lot, but it was enough to be like, oh, I'm tasting fat, or I'm drinking some oil, or whatever. It was enough to turn your stomach for some people. So I'm glad I didn't have to do that when I was 11. But most of what was in that class in 101, I learned when I was 11. I already knew how to make a white sauce. I knew how to, cook pasta al dente. I knew how to cook eggs multiple different ways. In fact, what was really funny is that we actually had a practical test. And when we did the practical test, we had to go into the room, and they had stations set up. You had to go in the room, and there was a table there with all the index cards laid face down, and you turn over the index card. Mine had scrambled eggs written on it. Nothing else. It just had the name of the recipe. And then you had to then go prep yourself, prep your station, and that. And I remember having a cut on my thumb or on my finger, I can't remember, but I had a Band-Aid on it, and I went over to the hand washing station, washed my hands, redressed my my cut. Yeah, so I took the Band-Aid off that I had on there, washed my hands, did all of that stuff there with the hand sanitizing stuff, all the hand scrubbing stuff you're supposed to do. Redressed my Band-Aid, then went to put the gloves on, and two of the examiners came over and says, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I've got a cut here." The cut was sort of like about here on my finger. And I said, "I've got a cut here," and so I'm just covering it all up and putting the gloves on. And they said, "Oh, no, you don't need to do that." They said, "It's okay. This is just the test. You're not going to do it." And my brain was sort of like, yeah, it doesn't sound right. Like they were like completely sincere about the fact I didn't have to wear gloves. I says, "You know what?" I said, "I'm going to wear these gloves anyway, just for my own safety." Because they were telling me that nobody was going to be eating the food. So it didn't matter whether or not I put the gloves on. I said, "You know what? For my own safety, I'm going to put the gloves on." So I put the gloves on and walked away and did all my stuff that I had to do and everything else, and got it all prepped and cooked my scrambled eggs. And then we had to answer a couple of questions. They'll give you a couple of questions about eggs that you had to answer. And so I remember sitting down to my instructor and I said, "Now I know the egg," and I started the conversation. I said, "Well, I know the eggshells are really porous. So do you think if we just wrap the whole thing in like crushed garlic that the eggs would come out garlic flavored?" That was how I started the conversation with my examiner when I went to present with my eggs. Yeah, and that was what, somebody would just have white sauce. No ingredients listed, just what the name of the recipe was, and you had to go make it. But and of course, as soon as you went back out into the waiting area because once you'd done the exam, you were done, but you had to walk out through the waiting area. You were not allowed to tell anybody what it was you had to make. You just had to pick up your stuff and walk out the door without saying it. And they actually had somebody standing out in the room that says, "Okay, go pick up your stuff from over there and just leave. You're not allowed to say anything to anybody." So, but it was a very interesting exam and all of that sort of thing. So if you want to participate in that conversation of what subjects you think should be taught in schools, please go to my Facebook page and have a look for that conversation and put your thoughts and ideas on there as to what you think should be taught. It's very interesting to see the same theme on some things coming up over and over and over again. So that's kind of interesting. But anyway, I'm out of here for today. Have a super fantastic, sparkling rest of your Magic Monday, because my puppy needs to go for a walk. Either that or she's upset that she's finished her treat thing so quickly. And we will catch you guys tomorrow for Tune Up Tuesday, where we're going to be talking about the Make the Bed commencement speech. I don't actually know what the speech was called, but I just remember this. He's got the book called, is it Make Your Bed? Make Your Bed. There's a book actually, he's turned his speech into a book called Make Your Bed, and I remember I had a copy of it, picked up at a clearance sale, and so I gave it to my mum and dad to read while they were there, and it ended up going back to New Zealand in my dad's bag. But he did ask me first. He didn't just walk out with it. He says, I know a few people who really enjoy reading this. Do you mind? He says, where can we get a copy? I said, you can actually take that copy because I got it on a clearance sale, and I know exactly the store it is where it's on clearance. So I can go back and get another copy. So, he was able to take that book back home so he could share it with his friends back there. But anyway, that's it from me for today. Have a super fantastic, sparkling rest of your Magic Monday, and we will catch you guys tomorrow for Tune Up Tuesday. Hakonara.